much. People love their space TV shows. And you know what? Maybe reality is that complicated. But when we measure the
Right.
surface, I mean, we can just go off of that as our foundation. We don't have to suppose that it's actually curving in higher dimensional space-time. We're going to need some evidence that that's the case, not just some assertion that has to be in order for my cosmology to be true. And general
Yeah.
relativity is almost Einstein's own escape from special relativity, because special relativity had absolute reference frames. You had an inertial frame, a non-inertial, and you could use this to describe like the orbits of satellites and stuff around a ball. But then general relativity kind of opened up everything, allowing you to draw those lines as curvy or as flat as you want, and it doesn't matter because in some higher level geometry, it's some absolute truth to the true topology of things, and you'll never be able to access what that is, and maybe it's all relative in the first place. So, it's totally brainwashing mind rot. It's like, hey, so is there a Schwarzschild radius? Is that radius actually straight? Or is it actually curving and just appears to be straight, but there's curved space-time everywhere, so that radius is actually not straight but curved?
Right.
It's self-defeating.
And why would it straighten out again after being curved?
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's diagrams, and got the space time all gridded out surrounding a globe Earth, right? Where the line, where is it all intersecting? Like where's the? Aren't we supposed to imagine it as if there's another one but tilted slightly, to by a degree, and then another one by another, and then to have all these intersecting versions of what they're describing, because it has to be in all dimensions, not just the way they depict it. I think it's a very simplified, like, concept, what they show in the diagrams. Is it because they can't really depict it how it has to be? Like, if this was true, if this was reality, it's more
yeah, I think
complex than
so.
what they
I think
show.
if they were honest, it'd be more obvious how they make their own claims unfalsifiable.
Dude, they can't even agree on the shape of the universe. It's all over the place.
It's not flat anymore?
Well, I've got some links, right? Because I made a folder for this, right? So we got Harvard, we got Stanford, we got we got NASA claiming that it's flat, right? Flat universe. Then we got universetoday.com saying to within 99% certainty, we know that the universe is not flat. And they're saying that it could be like this cone-shaped thing, right? Then we got sciencenews.org saying that we can't rule out other shapes. It could actually be donut-shaped. Then we got Cosmological Crisis from newscientist.com. We don't know if the universe is round or flat. Like,
Is this the divergence that our friend earlier was talking about? He's trying to invoke all this, basically consensus, right? Is this what he was talking about? Because this sounds like convergence. This sounds like
I'll post some of these images
disagreements.
of the universe that just completely contradict each other. Okay, we need to make like a pick A, B, C, or D and put it for the Globers. Like, which of these is the correct shape of the universe? This one?
Sorry, this sounds like divergence, not convergence. Yeah, convergence would be coming together. Divergence would be
This
breaking
one?
apart. Right. Hey, do any of you guys remember seeing on a documentary years ago? Right. They said that they did something to map the universe, the known universe, and it started to form the shape similar to like a spiral helix pattern, like the DNA thing.
Dude, that's literally the one I
D-
was just about to post.
Oh wow, really?
Here's one, T-Dub. Could be this shape.
Wow, what the heck?
There, I came through, posted a bunch of the stuff from A.G. Kelly's research into the Hafel-Keating demonstration, which was BS. You may want to save that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm literally already doing that right now. As soon as you posted it, I'm like, whoop, yoink.
Next up is Arthur Eddington's 1919 eclipse observation that supposedly proved Einstein. Debunked. So I got this, I got that. Yeah, the Ehrman-Glimor paper. Here we go. Eddington threw out 33 of 43 photographic plates of evidence, keeping only those that best fit the data that would satisfy Einstein's predictions.
You
And
give us
saw
a.
nothing wrong.
Can you give me a bit of just like a? I haven't looked much into Eddington. Can you give just a little bit of background on that? What that's about?
Yeah, so I think this was the I don't think this was the transit of Mercury. Oh shoot, one of my sources is saying too many requests. I guess everybody's trying to click on it now. Basically, in 1919, I think there's an eclipse that was predicted, and it was viewable from like Madagascar and I don't know, I want to say Brazil. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to see if the timing of the eclipse would allow for relativity to explain, I guess, some kind of discrepancy in the prediction versus observation. Yeah, sorry for being light on details. It's been a few years since I looked at this. I'm trying to pull up a page now so I can rehash my memory. Oh, look at that. There's a website dedicated to this, eclipse1919.org. Yeah, here we go. You're going to read this, like articles like the controversial British-led eclipse expeditions that verified general relativity. All right. So it's best if I read this. The 1919 total solar eclipse crossed through Brazil and Africa on 29 May. This was a unique eclipse since over its duration, the 13 stars of the Taurus constellation, that's what it had to do, the starlight bending. Taurus constellation were visible near the sun. This, as well as the unusually long 5 minutes of totality, created a favorable opportunity to perform the experiment, affirm the consequent, and potentially take a major step towards confirming general relativity? No. How about affirming the consequent of general relativity? Anyway, it continues. Often quoted as a theory of extraordinary beauty, with Nobel Prize winner Paul Dirac calling it probably the greatest scientific discovery ever made, Einstein's general theory of relativity revolutionized our understanding of the universe. According to Einstein, matter leads to curvature in space, which in turn leads to the motion of matter. One consequence of this is the warping of spacetime, that a hugely massive object should be able to distort the path taken by light. This is a process known as gravitational lensing. Yep, so that's what this is about. So, if we could see a change in the apparent location of the stars, depending on whether or not the sun was in the vicinity of the sky, then the sun could be said to have distorted the light from those stars. The extent of this distortion would be evidence for whether Einstein's theory of general relativity was accurate or not. Boy, you can see the fallacious logic just leaping off the page. However, the sun is normally bright enough to block out stars in the nearby sky. So that's right. If the sun is this big ball, it's warping gravity around, or gravity's warping space-time around it, then as it moves across the star field, you should see potentially a pulling of the starlight from constellations towards the sun, as if the starlight is accelerating as the sun is warping space-time, curving space-time. So that's the claim. But the problem is, oh dear, how do we test this if the sun basically washes out everything, bathes the sky in bright light? You're not going to be able to see the magnitude of the stars behind the magnitude of the sun. Well, eclipses afford that opportunity. So in 1919, that's when this particular eclipse scenario took place. So Arthur Eddington went out. I think, was it Brazil or Madagascar? Maybe there are observers in both places. But regardless, Arthur Eddington's the guy. He went out there to go photograph this. And so he set up these photographic plates. That was their technology of the day, captured all the light of the eclipse onto them. And then he whipped out rulers and started measuring the exposure of the starlight and the exposure of the sun as it was being eclipsed. And as he was doing this, the claim goes is that he was finding justification for general relativity. That, oh, look, the starlight happened to move closer to the sun in this instant because the gravitational lensing effect is pulling the starlight closer to the sun. So it shifts where the apparent location of the starlight should be relative to the sun. That he's like, Einstein's right, guys. And so he then reported his findings and was called a brave hero for proving Einstein. And we come to find out later that he cherry-picked all of his data. He cherry-picked, was it like 3/4 of the plates to throw out because they didn't comport to Einstein's theory of general relativity, and kept only the ones that appeared to do so. And so there are all kinds of questions over, what was it he was actually doing and measuring with a ruler? What exactly was his methodology? How was this confirmed by other methods? And the answer is yes and no. So there's a lot of potential fraud at play, and there's a lot that's undetermined too. Even if this wasn't fraudulent, it's still affirming the consequent, and there's still not like this locked-in validation that they can claim exists for relativity whatsoever. So this is what passes for modern scientific rigor. And this is what kids are taught in school when they learn about relativity. They're taught about this eclipse, how famous it was, how it definitively proved Einstein correct, and so on. But no, nope. I think that paper by Ehrman and Glymour is probably the best one that I had read before. Gets into some of the details and problems with it. So there you go. Anytime you hear about the 1919 eclipse proving general relativity, and I've heard people bring this up in our spaces all the time. You got a bright newcomer who comes in and probably heard about this in college or something. It's like, hey, remember when this happened? Didn't that prove relativity? And then the other one they bring up is the airplane clocks with the atomic clocks, which I also posted the debunk of. And there's a third one that sometimes they bring up, not often, Pound Rebka, which is basically like dropping a flashlight down a shaft and watching for the redshift. So it's all a bunch of cosmological garbage. I mean, people wanted Einstein to be so right because it offered a new cosmic religion, and that's Einstein's own words. A godless religion that actually comports with the modern Judaic faith. Oh yeah, I mean, it's not just me saying that. Einstein wrote this. He wrote a booklet called The Cosmic Religion, where he basically ties in his own understanding of the cosmos under the frame of relativity, calling the most learned men of science religious fanatics, and linking it to Judaism. Maybe I should find that and post that too. Cosmic religion. It's a hoot. Like the last part of this booklet, he quotes himself. He's like, it's a chapter called Aphorisms, and he just quotes himself over and over again. Like who quotes themselves? Like these are my best quotes that I made up, that I picked out, that I get to share with you. Let's see, cosmic religion. Yeah. Do. Might have to pull it up elsewhere. Hold on. The cosmic religion Einstein. All right. Einstein's cosmic religion on JSTOR. Here we go, archive.org. So yeah, George Bernard Shaw did an introduction. I think this is it. Okay, yep, so contents, here are the chapters. An Appreciation by George Bernard Shaw, Cosmic Religion, Pacifism, the Jews, Opinions and Aphorisms. All right, let's go down to aphorisms. There's some amazing choice quotes in here that just kind of reveal how cuckoo bananas he is. Okay, opinions and aphorisms. It was the scientists who first made true democracy possible. For not only did they lighten our daily tasks, but they made the finest works of art and thought, whose enjoyment until recently was the privilege of favored classes, accessible to all. Thus they awakened the nations from their sluggish dullness. The basis of all scientific work is the conviction that the world is an ordered and comprehensive entity. Boy, relativity sure isn't. Which is the religious sentiment. My religious feeling is a humble amazement at the order revealed in the small patch of reality to which our feeble intelligence is equal. We can only see the universe by the impressions of our senses reflecting indirectly the things of reality. Oh, how nice.
Hello, governors.
Hello, just going through Einstein's aphorisms here. I'm trying to pick out a couple that I recall that were absolutely boneheaded.
While you're thinking, just as a quick follow-up to our conversation, I believe from Saturday, is it in fact Einstein that there's obviously some contention that some of his students wrote some of his supposed works when really you and I discussed that that's just misunderstanding of the corporate entity of the day?
Yeah, maybe. You know, who knows? His
Well,
wife
there's
seems
somebody
to.
like
His wife was like a
Einstein or
mathematician or
somebody.
something, right?
Yeah, there's somebody here in more recent times that they alleged that with, but I'll dig that up separately. But continue on with what you were going on. I just,
Okay.
you know,
Section 24 from the Cosmic Religion. The cosmic religious experience is the strongest and the noblest driving force behind scientific research. Can we cue Crit with the overview effect? I'll read
Oh,
that
yeah.
again. The cosmic religious experience is
Yeah,
the
there it is.
strongest and the noblest driving force behind scientific research. Here's another quote from section 25. A contemporary has rightly said that the only deeply religious people of our largely materialistic age are the earnest men of research. Good stuff, Einstein. Yeah, relativity is not exclusive to a globe at all. General relativity isn't. Special relativity, you could maybe kind of say is, and that was a problem. So, general relativity, think of it as an open source sandbox. Think of it as like the Python dev environment itself, where you can code anything and make it possible. This is where flat can mean curved and curved can be flat. The coordinate reference frames in one case may be stretched and in another compressed. Maybe bent, maybe straight. Time could be slow when we experience it fast, and time could be fast, but it's actually really slow, guys. The star could be here, but it's actually over there. The horizon could be there, but it's also up there. But we know that Earth is most definitively a curving surface within Einstein's geodesic framework. Oh, but we're going to leave out the part where it could be relatively curved and actually flat in another frame of reference. And you just got to tweak the coordinate reference frame a bit, tweak those Christoffel symbols on your manifold a little bit. And you could preserve all the dynamic forces in the real world. It's a very much have your cake and eat it too kind of thinking. It gives every argument an out, and in every argument an in. It's so non-definitive. It's what's so frustrating about it. And when you have people who commit their lives to so-called science, who are trying to definitively rule out possibilities to prove things are true, and introduce relativity, which doesn't allow you to do that, but these people buy into relativity and at the same time call themselves scientists, and it's like, what the hell is going on? I mean, it starts to look like this postmodern relativism might have been an outgrowth of Einstein's own cosmic religion. Where now morals and truth and ethics and things of this sort are also relative.
So let me interrupt you real quick here.
Yeah.
So you have had over the last 100 years or so this movement that various religions claim to be some sort of science, even, if you will, to loosely lump in everyone for a moment, this idea of theology. So my question for you is, how do we really, truly, with Einstein's own words, how do we separate where Einstein is talking actual science or actual study versus a system of doctrine?
Well, I don't think Einstein proposed a single scientifically testable hypothesis in his entire body of work. So the whole thing is unfounded dogma. It comes from his imagination, which he writes in his own screed that imagination is what makes all things possible in the real world. There's an actual quote that he says that goes along those lines. I wish I had a true photographic memory in that regard. Maybe somebody can pull it up. Einstein on imagination. I mean, he wrote a lot of things on imagination. There's one in particular. Imagination is more important than knowledge.
I mean, it can be that
Because
way.
knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, I think that's Einstein, right? Or maybe I missed it.
Yep.
Yeah, because he had talked, I got in this conversation with globalists. A global server, I almost left it because they are just insufferable. Like, just, like, can you imagine yourself? They're basically talking about the overview effect and the space age and whatnot. Can you imagine a version of yourself out there in the universe that's not extremely triggered by flat Earth? And they couldn't do it. They really couldn't get, I'm like, how is that possible? That you're trying to convince me of a model of endless wonder and amazement. Anything is possible. But the only variable, the only possibility you can think of is you're upset by a topic that you can't even define what it is. Like, riddle me that. And then they went on to say, like, do I think nukes exist? And started asking about, like, oh, wait, do you believe Einstein? Like trying to get these, like, really weird, cringe gotchas. So I was like, I'm not going to talk about me. What I'm talking about is, are you advocating for a model with endless wonder and amazement? Or are you advocating for something more like a flat Earth? A contained, fully explored, categorized, mapped out, where you know everything.
They hate the idea that we claim that there are things you can know absolutely for true. I think that's really the underlying motivation behind their frustration with us.
Well, they walk themselves into a contradiction because they say you
They
can't
do.
know stuff, and you know that. Well, no, I don't know that either. So you do know stuff then? Nope, don't know that either. So what do you know? I know that you don't know that you don't know that you do know that you don't know. And then I'm like, wow, really, dude? And they're like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, or some sort of other poisoning the well type thing. It's like, how am I supposed to figure out that the Earth is not a flat when you don't tell me how you know it's a globe, because you know it's not a flat, but you can't tell me what a flat is? Meanwhile, when I quote back to you people like Einstein, these other people, supposedly I can't use them because for some reason, which you won't explain or take questions on, you think I'm talking about nuclear weapons being fake. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, we can, as flat earthers, we can appropriate Einstein for our use. 100%.
He told us we could. Like, in his own words, he's like, hey, use this.
And it'd almost be unfair because we'd be committing the same fallacious reasoning that the Globers do. But we could appropriate Einstein, and we can say, yeah, it measures flat, but there could be a Lorentz contraction happening, creating curvature in this direction in a higher geometry that we just don't have access to because of relativity. And they should be fine with that explanation.
They should have told us that. That's
They should
if they
have, but they
read or
don't want
paid
that to be
attention to
true.
any of it, they would have been the ones to tell us, hey, check this out.
Yeah, you can't have a Pac-Man Earth, guys, because the different edges of I hate to put it this way, the different edges of the map are actually connected together, creating a looping surface.
Here, crap, I'll be right back.
You can have that, flat earther. If you accept Einstein, you can have that. Which makes your claim unfalsifiable, just like the globe, but you can have that. You can have what the globe has, which is unfalsifiability. No way to determine whether something is true. Isn't that nice? Absolute insanity. It leads back to the brain in the jar, the same brain in the jar that we've been fighting this whole time. The brain in the jar is both the final boss and the beginning boss at the same time.
So the question is, Yoder, how do you have logical discourse with people who follow somebody such as Einstein that said such crazy nonsense?
Yeah, how closely are they really following Einstein is probably a good question. You really want to be an Einstein acolyte? Go read The Cosmic Religion and get back to us. Go tell us with a straight face that level means curved and curved means level.
So,
Destroy your
how
own art.
does Notebook LM summarize the cosmic religion into a few paragraphs? Have you tried that by chance?
I mean, if I could just describe it, it's so Einstein was very proud of his Jewish heritage.
Well, sorry to
the
interrupt,
modern.
but I was meaning
Okay.
like, is there like a way to get a, say, fairly neutral-esque summary that could be copied and pasted in, so when somebody's talking about Einstein, hey, look in the side chat and let's deal with this issue of Einstein?
I don't know. Go find out. I guess that's what I'd say. Go create one. But what I was trying to describe, though, is understand that mainstream modern Judaism exists today in a way that is more about cultural identity. For the most part, I think that's a fair statement. This is because they had a series of false messiahs throughout the Middle Ages and I think as late as the 1600s, and left a lot of them feeling like maybe they've been abandoned, and has led to them incorporating almost a universalist approach to their cosmology and their theology. It's why you'll find you'll find a lot of occult literature that's wrapped up in this stuff. So with that in mind, I mean, there's a playground of theology available to them that also removes God and exemplifies man as God, a message that you also find in Freemasonry. It's very, very old in essence. I mean, these are just more Gnostic thoughts. The idea that God was once a unified man and God basically broke himself off into billions of pieces, which became humanity. And we're all trying to assemble each other back together to become one whole entity again. And it's even broader than that, the whole emanation theory, that God basically broke himself apart and became all of creation, and everything is trying to reintegrate itself back into a center whole. I mean, this kind of thought means that, well, there's no God, no overmind in heaven. There's only man and man's collective consciousness. And this leads to this notion that the collective consciousness of man is often most moral and virtuistic and correct. And it leads to ideas, notions of democracy being noble and pure because it's getting the most amount of people to agree on things, and therefore it's probably true. It leads to this kind of thinking. Monism. We are all God's thoughts experiencing separate aspects of himself. You are God, I am God, we are God. That's where Einstein's head is at when I read The Cosmic Religion. So with that kind of relativistic framework already made theologically, all is one, then you've got this all as one when it comes to different frames of reference in describing the motions of the heavens and physics and things like this. All is one gigantic relativistic contradiction. Man is a woman, up is down, level means curved. Man is God. God is man. The uniting of opposites and so on and so forth. These are just ancient ideas, and they're just formed into this metaphysical framework that now has pervaded science.
Yeah, and it is interesting because, you have people like the Chabad Lubavitcher Rebbe, who I don't remember when he died. I think it was around the year 2000.
Yeah, they thought he was the Messiah.
Yeah, they thought he was a Messiah. They're still accepted into mainstream Judaism, even though they teach that the earth is flat. And they taught that Rebbe Schneerson was a Messiah.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that to keep the identity, traditions, life such a way that they do have to have a little bit of a broad acceptance of nearly everything. So that is interesting. I had not considered that that would play a role into Einstein and maybe even more modern cosmologists.
Yeah, ultimately, you are Messiah too. Is also the thing. You are responsible for your own death and resurrection. You're simultaneously alone and also part of a grand unity of beings at the same time. You are one and you are all, and all is one. It's kind of sounds Pythagorean. So yeah, I mean, who was Schneerson but a messenger, right? That can teach people to be their own Messiah.
And there's still people who write letters to Schneerson, and they put if you send a letter to them, or to him, I should say, they'll take it to his gravesite, and there's people who believe that they've got healing and all sorts of stuff from that. So it's it's certainly interesting. I'm not offering any commentary other than just observation. That, but it is interesting that somewhere along the lines, this has to play an effect because he's not the only supposed Messiah. Like you say, there have been multiple ones, and then you have that, as you say, you are your own Messiah, blah, blah, blah. So it must play an interesting view in modern science. Or not view, but it must have a interesting influence on modern science.
Yeah. They certainly has, and the character of their faith changed significantly from seeking a Messiah that was a great warrior that will be a demigod to instead this inner Messiah, inner salvation, inner repair work that people engage in. Man, the name of this guy is just, I just forgot his name, but it was like in the 1600s or something. This Messiah that had come, I think he was, he eventually converted to Islam or something, and that's what shocked the entire world. Oh, what was his name? It'll come back to me if I dwell on it, but.
And yeah, and it is interesting because there was some cult group, and I can't remember the name of the cult group, to where the leader had this, or I should say the cult group had this extreme cult of personality built up around the leader. And then at some point, when you got to a certain level, you were taught the secret that really he was nothing, and that you were your own cult leader, more or less.
Yeah, there you go. That's the royal secret, folks.
Yeah.
You are God. Or you can skip all the way up to the 32nd, 33rd degree.
And that attitude really does seem to match what they call modern science. Like you become, twisting their words a lot bit. You become a god when you study and explore things and answer every question.
Yeah, you're God figuring out who he is and remembering where he came from and all that. Yep. That's exactly what's fueling a lot of this. And you have Michio Kaku, like reading the Zohar, reading Kabbalistic texts, and getting involved in astrology. Studying the Tree of Life diagram, which is really just a table of emanations in a Gnostic sense. Calling that the Big Bang. It's giving a lot of these ancient Greek ideas a modern veneer of technical scientific sophistication. You can extrapolate that further to ask, well, what might aliens be from other worlds? But the same demons of the ancient past.
Well, I think you've heard my diatribe of what they call outer space is just a codification of a spiritual underworld. And it's kind of misinterpreted to be the heavens. And that's what explains for the floating through walls and things like this, and et cetera, of ancient yore, where now you just have supposed cosmonauts who float between various quote unquote planets. And my wife adds in to serve man. And of course, that is how you get the silliness of the demonic critters like the Canaanites and everything else is that it's literally just a codification of the demonology of yore.
Here's a quote from Einstein's aphorisms, and it relates to the prior discussion on the eclipse. I believe in intuition and inspiration, he says. At times I feel certain I am right, while not knowing the reason. When the eclipse of 1919 confirmed my intuition, I was not in the least surprised. In fact, I would have been astonished had it turned out otherwise. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. It is strictly speaking a real factor in scientific research. And then he says, By furthering logical thought and a logical attitude, science can diminish the amount of superstition in the world. There is no doubt that all but the crudest scientific work is based on a firm belief akin to a religious feeling and the rationality and comprehensibility of the world. This guy's all over the place. And I kind of wonder if this is where science took on more of this anthropomorphic quality to it. Science does things. Science is this. Science is that. Science is a verb. He uses it in a very similar way that modern people do. A law, so like a natural law, I guess he says. Yep, a law cannot be definite. Really, a law cannot be definite for the one reason that the conceptions with which we formulate it develop and may prove insufficient in the future. There remains at the bottom of every thesis and of every proof some remainder of the dogma and infallibility. There is no universe beyond the universe for us. It is not part of our concept. Of course, you must not take the comparison with the globe literally. I'm only speaking in symbols. Most mistakes in philosophy and logic occur because the human mind is apt to take the symbol for the reality. Wow. That's a good one. I am going to screenshot that. And I'm going to drop it into the text chat. Check this out. This is great.
Hey, Quantum. Hello.
Hello.
So I would like to discuss your assertion that the Schwarzschild tensor does predict the time dilation of satellites accurately for GPS to work on Earth, but it can be explained differently, specifically for a case where Earth is flat, using different metric. Within
Right.
the Schwarzschild metric, but with different vectors, right?
Yeah, GPS doesn't inherently prove a globe at all. You can use the
Well, it
same
does. Well, it
pseudo
does.
Well, okay.
I wanted to tell you that what is a Schwarzschild metric to begin with. Um, it's the exact solution to Einstein field equations that describe the space-time geometry around. Basically, the object has to follow three conditions in order for us to apply the Schwarzschild metric. It has to be static, it has to be non-rotating, and it has to be spherically symmetric mass distribution.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, right.
yeah,
So how do you know? How do you know that that's true? How do you know that the radius is straight and not curving?
radius and not curving, because for a vector we take the shortest distance and not the longest distance.
Yeah,
For
so what about
vectors.
the Schwarzschild radius? I mean, how can you know for sure that that's actually straight when it could be curving in a higher dimension?
Well, we want to use its application in 3D world. That's why we mainly focus on the what we can observe in 3D, which is the Schwarzschild radius that we observe is a
No one
613.
observes the Schwarzschild radius. That only comes out in math and descriptions using mathematics. You can't go out and observe and measure a Schwarzschild radius.
Yeah, so let me continue to what I was talking earlier. So so the object has to be static, non-rotating, and it has to be spherical, symmetrical. And we do have a lot of other metric as a solution of Einstein field equation. For example, the Kerr metric KERR for black holes, and for the universe we use the FLRW for for measuring cosmic micro background radiation.
How do you
And
know
we do
black
have
holes are
other
real in the
metrics
first
for
place?
like
How do you know
black
black
holes
holes
are
are
what?
real?
Yeah, black holes are real. So what?
How do you know? How do you know that's true?
Well, in 2019 we did find they published it a lot. Didn't you see that the first image of black hole?
Yeah, I did. What's the evidence for it? What did they actually do? What instrumentation was used?
Well,
And
it was a complex evidence, and I would let's stay at the topic, okay? So we do have different metric, but why do we specifically use this Schwarzschild metric? That is the key. In case Earth was flat, we use something called the Israel Darmois formalism or Israel thin sheet formalism
yeah,
for a
I
flat.
know. I told you about this earlier. That's the coordinate reference invariance.
Yeah, but uh, we do get we when we apply the Schwarzschild metric to measure the time dilations, then we get the accurate time dilations in order for the GPS to work. If we used any other metric than Schwarzschild, then uh, there's something called error analysis in physics, and the minimum error would be 10 kilometers per day, which would make the GPS and navigation system it would make it futile. It wouldn't work really. That's why
Oh,
we use.
I've got a first-hand reference actually. Ron Hatch, who owns dozens of patents for the GPS system, said that you don't need these timing corrections because there are other corrections that cancel out those timing corrections. Special relativity is canceled out by general relativity within the own GPS system. And I can explain
Well,
further.
but we
Because
do use.
first, and what's also destructive to this is GPS systems require an absolute frame of reference in accordance with special relativity, which debunks general relativity. That's number one.
Okay,
Number two, Earth being treated as a sphere with an equatorial bulge in general relativity produces a time dilation effect that cancels out the accelerated time in special relativity for the satellites in motion.
well, you
So you
have to
don't
be.
need them in the first instance, as if they're not even needed as a consequence.
Well, you can calculate that yourself. You can avoid using this Schwarzschild metric.
Oh,
Then you will
this
get
is what
some
Ron
error
Hatch
of.
published in his papers.
Well, can you fill the papers in the chat?
Yeah, give me a second. I've got zip files.
And I will read them tomorrow because I really, I think you connect all these things to your web of beliefs. I think you also believe that the Bible says yours is flat.
No,
So
I'm
it must be
not
flat.
discussing the Bible here at all, dude. I'm showing you that what is described within your own worldview is inconsistent internally and does not withstand its own capability to provide consistent evaluation of observations that are made. Furthermore,
add something real quick. Oh,
go ahead.
Okay. The Bible part, everyone in this channel, there won't be a single person here, Flat Earth, who's going to follow your Bible talk, okay? No one here cares about your Sky Daddy. I don't care if your interpretation of the Bible tells you the Earth is a globe and that someone else's interpretation that you think is wrong says it's flat. All that stuff is a complete non sequitur, irrelevant to the conversation. Just like if one person says their read of the Bible says pineapple belongs on pizza, it doesn't matter. Your personal interpretation of your holy book is completely irrelevant to anyone else's interpretation. And even more to the point, your globe side, Bible thumps all the time. And that's one of the major reasons why people have rejected the globe model. The deeply intrinsic, like Catholic Church indoctrination, astronauts going to the moon for the glory of God and country, is one of the reasons why they've rejected heliocentric.
Well, Quantum, I would like to get back to your stuff. You said that the time dilations get cancelled out by the general relativity, and we don't need the Schwarzschild metric to
Right, because special relativity negates
calculation.
general relativity. The time dilation effects
Well,
exactly precisely cancel each other out.
I think you're moving from general observations to obvious conclusions. I'm better at yeah. So let me analyze the papers you wanted to send.
Yep. Give me a second. I've got it pulled up here. I just need to make a copy. Yep, and I need to transfer it to. Yeah. Fortunately, my phone is not interacting well. Let's see, share.
Quantum, you can whenever you find them, you can ping me in the chat and share those, and I will read them and discuss them tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye.
Yep. So furthermore, GPS uses pseudo ranging. So they're just beacons that are beaming. They're beaming a timestamp, and they also carry some additional data with them, like Keplerian orbital elements and nautical almanac. But the beeping of the beacon pseudo ranging and its message traffic does not inherently prove that Earth is a globe, because you can take the GPS signals and you can assemble a moon out of it, which NASA has done. They created what they said is a lunar receiver. So they basically created a 3D model called a datum of the moon with a coordinate reference grid, and they utilize Earth's GPS signals to provide the pseudo ranging needed to place the receiver somewhere on that lunar datum. GPS receivers can also work on a flat Earth. The same process where you take the same pseudo ranging and you apply it to a flat datum instead of a round datum like a globe. Surveyors today use GPS very much exclusively with their total stations. And their total stations allow them to choose a coordinate reference system to apply the GPS signals to. And they can choose old datums of the globe, where you have one set of coordinates, or new versions of the globe with new coordinates, or even a state plane coordinate reference grid, which is flat. GPS itself does not inherently prove Earth's shape at all whatsoever. And what does that mean these satellites are doing? Well, we need proof that they're in an orbit. But here's the problem. The very concept of an orbit itself relies on first assuming that Earth is curved, and we measure the Earth flat. The orbital coordinate reference system that is used a lot in satellites is called IGP-4, which is taking the WGS-84 datum and adding an altitude to it. WGS-84 is a model of Earth that was developed off of how the sky appears to be behaving and is interpreted. It's not based off of ground-based measurements at all. So, to bring this back down to Earth, so to speak, what this means is that this coordinate reference system is a choice. The coordinate reference system for satellites or the coordinate reference system that your satellite beacons can give you on the ground are both choices. They're arbitrary. just as arbitrary as the coordinate reference system that you think is true within Einstein's relativity framework, which is also just a choice, a preference, and you can use that same framework and develop other coordinate reference systems. You can, with general relativity, draw those geodesic lines as curving, as looping, or as flat as you want. And it preserves the underlying physical dynamics because you just add higher dimensionality and it becomes unfalsifiable because you're not supposed to be able to measure the difference in frames because all the frames are relative to one another and you have no way to choose whether or not that you're in a proper frame or an absolute frame. There's only chosen frames of reference, and these are all mathematically derived from imagination. So to come here and absolutely say as a relativist that the Earth is absolutely a globe is actually betraying what Einstein tried to do, and that is deliver you an open-ended field of infinite possibilities for what the Earth should be, for what the universe should be. It can take on any shape. The Schwarzschild radius doesn't have to be straight, it can be curved. It adds extra math, of course. You can assume that it's straight in one reference frame, but curving in another. And you have no way to choose which of them is the true one, because the point is there is no absolute true one. So, arguing for the globe as a relativist is self-defeating. And to say that GPS relies on relativity to prove a globe is self-defeating. And physically is not true, as Ron Hatch points out in his own research, that the relativistic corrections that are applied are actually canceled out by other relativistic corrections elsewhere within the same system. You can greatly simplify GPS by honoring that. So I'm running into some frustration here because I've got the zip file, and the only way for me to share this right now at this point is to give you a link to my Google Drive, and I'm not going to dox myself. So what I'll do instead is I'll type in the name of this guy, Ron Hatch. And his assistant is Ruyong Wang. Ron Hatch, after learning this, devoted his professional career to refuting Einstein and to try to simplify and correct GPS systems he himself had originally built and patented. Isn't that funny? So as Einstein said in The Cosmic Religion before you showed up, there's no universe beyond the universe for us. It is not part of our concept. Of course, you must not take the comparison with the globe literally. I'm only speaking in symbols. Most mistakes in philosophy and logic occur because the human mind is apt to take the symbol for the reality. The human mind is apt to take the globe, which is a coordinate reference system for a map, for the reality, which is that in reality, we use physical instrumentation to measure the Earth flat. In reality, the US Navy is using flat Earth to improve the precision of their targeting for aerial drones. Check this out, Naval Postgraduate School, thesis. Incorporation of a differential global positioning system, that's what I referenced earlier, and the control of an unmanned aerial vehicle for the precise navigation and the local tangent plane. That's right. Did you know, by the way, that GPS receivers initially provide your coordinate reference grid locally as a flat Cartesian plane? You can use the same beacon, though, like I said, for any coordinate reference system. All right, here's the abstract from the paper. The purpose of this thesis is to incorporate GPS and inertial navigation systems for the guidance of an unmanned aerial vehicle seeking precise navigation in a local tangent plane by applying the differential positioning technique GPS position data becomes more accurate. This position can then be referenced to a known location on the ground in order to give the aircraft's position in the local tangent plane. How many local tangent planes are there? There's one for every receiver. Every receiver on Earth initially produces a local tangent plane, taking the receiver data and providing what's called east-north up and east-north down coordinates from the Earth-centered Earth-fixed coordinate reference system. How many local tangent planes can exist on a curving surface of a ball? What the math does is it chains together all the flat local tangent planes of every receiver and uses higher dimensional geometry called a hypersphere to loop them all together, such that there is no curvature taking place in reality, but only in the math. The radius is curved in higher dimensional math for the ECEF system to work with every receiver given initially a local tangent plane. And you're going to argue that that curvature exists in reality? When your own systems that you think you use for a globe actually put the geometry in a higher dimension that you can't access? I mean, what did Einstein say earlier? There's no universe beyond the universe for us. It is not part of our concept. Of course, you must not take the comparison with the globe literally. I'm only speaking in symbols. Most mistakes in philosophy and logic occur because the human mind is apt to take the symbol for the reality. The human mind reifies concepts into reality all the time, and that's what you're doing. People are imagining that Earth is a globe, and then they use math to try and take every physical measurement of a flat Earth and conform it to a globe. The whole point of relativity is to ensure that you can't definitively say one way or another whether the Earth is flat, in my opinion. So why would you say it inherently proves that Earth is a globe? Well, yeah, you've got a way to mete it out when you choose a coordinate reference frame to begin with to operate under, like a heliocentric globe framework, which does offer you Schwarzschild radii that are straight. But the framework of relativity says that this is not absolute and cannot be said to be inherently true, because all reference frames are equal, including the one where your radius is actually curved in the math. So how about we get back to the fundamentals, right, and get out of this reified mathematical concept land and start looking at detectable reality itself. Start measuring the Earth. Look at our laser tests, folks. Look at our long distance observations, both in the visual spectrum and in infrared from high altitude. Go get a camera and zoom in on the horizon. Ask yourself if the inferior mirage above the marine layer of the water is curvature of the Earth or not. Be honest with yourself. You've never seen the globe except as depictions on TV and on the internet and in books and magazines. Nothing you can do will allow you to experience a globe that is moving through space. In fact, that very notion is an absolute frame of reference. Relativistically, any frame of reference is true. That globe could be flat and could be stationary. And the universe, if it appears to be in motion, moves around it. But then again, maybe the universe is also stationary. And there's yet another frame of reference that we're operating with. It just gets insane. There's no reason to defend any point of view if you're going to adopt the position of Einstein.